You know what? I threatened to chop off my hair to get him back. Now I just look desperate and pathetic. But honestly, I don't even care anymore what people think, because everyone's acting like I'm some kind of monster, when all I did was make a few mistakes that any normal person would understand if they actually knew the whole story. So here's what really happened. And I'm only telling this once because I'm sick of everyone acting like Bruce is some innocent victim when he's the one who abandoned me during the worst time of my life. We were together for 3 years, 3 whole years, of me putting everything I had into making our relationship work while he just coasted along like relationships don't take any effort. And yeah, maybe I got a little insecure sometimes, but that's because he was always giving me reasons to worry. Like, he would take forever to text me back. I'm talking hours sometimes, and when I'd ask him about it, he'd be like, I was busy at work, or I was hanging out with Josh, or whatever excuse he had that day. But then I'd see him posting stuff on social media during those same hours, so obviously he wasn't that busy. Any reasonable girlfriend would be upset about that. But apparently I'm demanding for expecting basic communication from my boyfriend. And don't even get me started on the whole thing with his female coworkers. There was this one girl, Nadia, who was always texting him about work stuff, but then they'd end up having these long conversations about completely random things. I saw the messages once when he left his phone on the counter, and she was asking him about his weekend plans and telling him about some movie she wanted to see. That's not work. That's flirting. But when I brought it up, he acted like I was being crazy and jealous. I wasn't jealous, I was being protective of our relationship. There's a difference. But Bruce never understood that, because he's one of those guys who thinks he can just be friends with whoever he wants without considering how it makes his girlfriend feel. So yeah, maybe I got a little upset about it sometimes, but that's what you do when you love someone and you see them not setting proper boundaries with other women. The whole thing with Peter happened because I was feeling so disconnected from Bruce. He was always at work or hanging out with his friends, never wanting to spend quality time with me, never making me feel like I was actually important to him. And then Peter started messaging me on Facebook. Just casual stuff at first, asking how I was doing and remembering little things about me that Bruce never seemed to notice. Peter actually listened when I talked. He remembered when I had a bad day at work. He asked about things that were important to me. He made me feel seen in a way that Bruce just wasn't doing anymore. And yeah, Peter is my ex, but that doesn't automatically make it wrong to talk to him. Bruce talks to his ex-coworkers all the time, so what's the difference? The first time I met up with Peter, it was completely innocent. I told Bruce I was going to yoga, which wasn't technically a lie because I had been planning to go to yoga. I just changed my mind and decided to get coffee with Peter instead. We just talked for like 2 hours about everything going on in our lives, and it felt so good to have someone actually care about what I was saying instead of just nodding along while thinking about something else. Bruce had been so distant lately, coming home from work and just sitting on the couch scrolling through his phone instead of asking me about my day or wanting to do anything together. I'd try to start conversations, and he'd give me these one-word answers like he couldn't be bothered. So when Peter was giving me all this attention and actually engaging with me like a human being, of course, it felt good. The second time I saw Peter, things got a little more intense. We were talking about how unhappy I was with Bruce, and Peter was being so understanding about everything. He said he could see how much I was hurting and that I deserved better than someone who took me for granted. And when he kissed me, it felt like the first time in months that someone actually wanted me. I know how that sounds, but people need to understand the context here. I wasn't getting any emotional support from Bruce. I was feeling completely neglected in my own relationship, and here was someone who was actually making an effort to connect with me. It's not like I planned for anything to happen, it just did because I was in such a vulnerable place. And yes, we ended up sleeping together, but it wasn't about the sex. It was about feeling wanted and appreciated, and like someone actually cared about making me happy. Bruce and I had barely been intimate in weeks, because he was always too tired or too stressed or had some other excuse. So when Peter was putting in all this effort to make me feel special, of course I responded to that. The third time was a few days later, and by then I was really confused about what I wanted. Part of me knew I should probably end things with Bruce if I was having feelings for someone else. But we'd been together for 3 years and had all these plans, and I didn't want to just throw that away. I thought maybe if Bruce started putting more effort into our relationship, things could go back to how they used to be. But Bruce wasn't changing anything. He was still coming home and ignoring me, still prioritizing everything else over spending time with me, still making me feel like I was asking for too much when I wanted basic attention from my own boyfriend. So when Peter kept reaching out and wanting to see me, it felt like at least someone valued my company. The whole thing about Peter being better in bed was just something I said to Trish because I was frustrated with Bruce and needed to vent to someone. Trish is my best friend. She's supposed to be someone I can tell everything to without worrying about being judged. I was just being honest about how Peter was more attentive and actually cared about making sure I was happy. Unlike Bruce, who had gotten lazy and selfish about everything, including sex. When I sent that screenshot to Bruce instead of Trish, it was obviously a complete accident. I was rushing to get ready for work, and I wasn't paying attention to which conversation I was in. As soon as I realized what happened, I felt sick to my stomach because I knew how it would look without the proper context. I tried calling Bruce right away to explain everything, but he wouldn't answer his phone. I texted him like 20 times trying to get him to let me come home so we could talk about it like adults. But he was being completely unreasonable and refusing to even hear my side of the story. By the time I got home from work, all my stuff was packed up in boxes by the door, and he told me we were done. Just like that. 3 years together. And he couldn't even have a conversation with me about what was going on. He didn't want to hear about how neglected I'd been feeling, or how Peter was just filling a void that Bruce had created, or how sorry I was that things had gotten so complicated. He just decided unilaterally that our relationship was over without even trying to work through it. That's when I realized that Bruce had never really loved me the way I thought he did. Because if you truly love someone, you don't just throw them away the minute things get difficult. You fight for the relationship. You try to understand what went wrong. You give the person a chance to make things right. But Bruce was so quick to give up on us that it made me wonder if he'd been looking for an excuse to end things anyway. The next day, I went over to his apartment to try to have a real conversation about everything. I had barely slept the night before. I was crying so hard that my mascara was all over my face, and I was honestly having what felt like a panic attack because my whole life was falling apart. I tried to explain to Bruce that I was going through a really difficult time emotionally, and that what happened with Peter was me trying to cope with feeling so disconnected from him. But Bruce wouldn't even listen. He just kept saying we were done and that I needed to leave. He couldn't see that I was having a genuine trauma response to him abandoning me when I needed him most. Instead of showing any compassion or trying to understand what I was going through, he was being cold and cruel and acting like I was some kind of terrible person for making a mistake. I told him that what I did with Peter was wrong, but it was also a cry for help that he completely ignored. I was trying to get his attention, trying to make him realize that our relationship was in trouble and needed work. But instead of recognizing that, he was using it as an excuse to walk away from everything we'd built together. When he still wouldn't listen to me, I decided I needed to make him understand how serious I was about fixing things. So I made a sign that said, "True love deserves a second chance." And I sat outside his building with our old playlist playing, hoping he would see how much our relationship meant to me, and that I was willing to do whatever it took to save it. I wasn't trying to cause a scene or embarrass anyone. I was just trying to remind Bruce of all the good times we'd had together and how happy we used to be. I thought if he heard our songs and remembered how in love we were in the beginning, he might be willing to at least talk to me about working things out. But instead of being touched by the gesture, Bruce called the cops on me. His own girlfriend of 3 years, and he had me arrested like I was some kind of criminal. The police officers were actually really nice about it and could see that I was just a heartbroken woman trying to save her relationship, but they said they had to respond to the complaint. That's when I knew Bruce was being emotionally abusive toward me. A loving partner doesn't have their girlfriend arrested for trying to reconcile. A loving partner doesn't refuse to even have a conversation about problems in the relationship. He was gaslighting me into thinking that I was the problem, when really he was the one who had created this whole situation by being neglectful and distant. I tried one more time to get through to him by showing him how desperate I was. I took pictures of myself with scissors next to my hair and sent them to him with a message saying that maybe if I cut it all off, he would remember what he was losing. My hair was one of the things he always said he loved about me, so I thought if he saw me about to destroy it, he would realize how much pain he was putting me through. But even that didn't work. He didn't respond to the pictures at all, which just proved how little he actually cared about me. If someone you loved was threatening to hurt themselves because of how much pain you were causing them, wouldn't you at least try to talk to them? But Bruce was so cold and heartless that he couldn't even be bothered to text me back. That's when I started telling our mutual friends what was really going on, because I needed people to understand that Bruce wasn't the innocent victim he was pretending to be. I explained to them how he had emotionally neglected me for months, how he had pushed me into the arms of another man by refusing to give me the attention and affection I needed, and how he was now abandoning me during a mental health crisis instead of trying to help me heal. I told them that what happened with Peter was essentially a test of Bruce's love for me. If he really cared about our relationship, he would have been willing to fight for it, instead of just giving up the minute things got challenging. The fact that he was so quick to walk away proved that he had never been as committed to me as I was to him. But instead of supporting me through this difficult time, most of our friends took Bruce's side. They couldn't see past the surface-level stuff to understand the deeper issues in our relationship that had led to this situation. They acted like I was some kind of cheater when really I was just a woman who had been driven to seek comfort elsewhere because her boyfriend wasn't meeting her emotional needs. Even my own family started telling me I should just let Bruce go and move on. They said I should show him compassion and let him heal from what I had done to him, like I was the one who had hurt him, instead of the other way around. They couldn't understand that I was the one who needed compassion and healing, not Bruce. It's been weeks now, and Bruce is still refusing to talk to me. He's blocked me on everything, so I've had to create new accounts just to try to reach out to him. I've been going to therapy like he wanted. I've been working on myself and trying to become a better person, but he won't even give me a chance to show him how much I've changed. I keep messaging him trying to explain that I'm not the same person who made those mistakes. I've learned so much about myself and about what I need to do differently in relationships. I understand now that I should have communicated better with him about feeling neglected instead of seeking attention from Peter. I'm ready to have an adult conversation about how we can rebuild our relationship stronger than ever. But Bruce is being completely immature about the whole thing. Instead of recognizing that I'm trying to grow and improve, he's holding on to his anger and resentment, like it's more important to him than our love. He's acting like what I did was unforgivable when really it was just a symptom of bigger problems that we could work through together if he was willing to try. I think the real issue is that Bruce is scared. He's scared of being vulnerable again. Scared of doing the work that relationships require, scared of admitting that he played a role in what happened between us. It's easier for him to make me the villain than to look at his own behavior and acknowledge how his emotional neglect contributed to this situation. But I know that deep down, he still loves me. You don't just stop loving someone after 3 years because of one mistake. He's probably missing me just as much as I'm missing him, but his pride won't let him admit it. He's gotten it into his head that taking me back would make him look weak or stupid, when really it would show how strong and mature he is. I keep hoping that eventually he'll come to his senses and realize what he's throwing away. We had something really special together. Something that most people never find. And yes, we hit a rough patch, but that doesn't mean we should just give up on everything we built together. Relationships take work, and the couples who make it are the ones who are willing to fight through the difficult times instead of running away at the first sign of trouble. The thing that really gets me is how everyone is acting like I'm some kind of monster for making a human mistake. Like, none of them have ever been in a situation where they felt neglected and sought comfort from someone else. Like, none of them have ever done something they regretted when they were in emotional pain. The level of judgment I'm getting is completely disproportionate to what actually happened. I wasn't having some long-term affair. I wasn't in love with Peter. I was just a woman who was struggling in her relationship and made some poor choices while trying to cope with that. But instead of getting support and understanding, I'm being treated like I committed some unforgivable sin that makes me unworthy of love or forgiveness. And now I'm sitting here with scissors in my hand, looking at my reflection and wondering if cutting off all my hair would somehow make this pain go away. Not because I'm trying to manipulate Bruce anymore, but because I just want to do something, anything, that might help me feel like I have some control over my life again. But even as I'm holding these scissors, I know it won't change anything. Bruce has made up his mind that I'm not worth fighting for. He's decided that his pride is more important than our relationship, that being right is more valuable than being happy. And maybe that tells me everything I need to know about who he really is as a person. Because the Bruce I fell in love with would have been willing to work through this with me. The Bruce I thought I knew would have seen how much pain I was in and tried to help me heal instead of walking away. But apparently, that Bruce never really existed. Or maybe he just stopped existing somewhere along the way when he decided I wasn't worth the effort anymore. So fine. If Bruce wants to throw away 3 years over one mistake, that's his choice. If he wants to act like I'm some terrible person who doesn't deserve a second chance, he can live with that decision. But I'm done begging him to love me the way I deserve to be loved. I'm done trying to convince someone to fight for a relationship they've already given up on. I'm putting these scissors down, and I'm walking away from this whole situation with my head held high. Because I know who I am, and I know that I'm a good person who made some bad choices during a difficult time. I don't need Bruce's forgiveness to move on with my life. And I don't need his approval to know my own worth. Maybe someday he'll realize what he lost. Maybe someday he'll understand that what happened between us was fixable if he had just been willing to try. But by then it'll be too late. Because I'll have found someone who actually appreciates me and doesn't run away the minute things get complicated. And when that day comes, when Bruce sees me happy with someone else who treats me the way I deserve to be treated, maybe then he'll understand what a huge mistake he made. Maybe then he'll realize that his pride cost him the best thing that ever happened to him. But it'll be too late by then, because I'll have moved on to someone who actually knows how to love me properly. Until then, I'm just going to focus on myself and my own healing. I'm going to continue therapy, continue working on becoming the best version of myself, and continue believing that everything happens for a reason. Maybe Bruce wasn't meant to be my forever person after all. Maybe this whole situation was just the universe's way of showing me that I deserve better than someone who gives up on love so easily. Either way, I'm done looking desperate and pathetic. I'm done chasing after someone who doesn't want to be caught. Bruce made his choice, and now I'm making mine. I choose to believe in my own worth, even if he doesn't. I choose to believe in second chances, even if he won't give me one. And I choose to believe that someday, someone will love me enough to fight for me the way Bruce never did.